The Chicago White Sox are a complete disaster. As we stand today, the White Sox sit at 7-21 and they are currently riding a 10-game losing streak. And that 7-21 record is tied for the second worst in baseball with the Royals, who are only better than the Oakland A's. And we all know the current state of the Oakland A's. On top of having a very bad record, they also have a negative 68 run differential, which is the second worst in baseball only to the Oakland A's, so there's really not much optimism here with the White Sox. And just yesterday, the White Sox were putting up a pretty impressive performance against the Tampa Bay Rays, who are far and away the best team in baseball. Lance Lynn, who has had his struggles early on this season, was hurling a no-hitter into the 6th inning, and when they pulled him, the bullpen absolutely imploded, and the Rays eventually won the game 12-3. On top of absolutely blowing the game, Luis Robert, who happens to most likely be the White Sox best player, was benched due to lack of hustle. He hit a dribbler back to the pitcher, and he may have thought the pitcher had a better angle on it and he was going to be out by a mile, but that wasn't the case. If he simply hustled, he would have been safe, but the play looked pretty bad and he was eventually benched for. And that play by Luis Robert seems to really just sum up the season so far for the White Sox. Just a complete lack of effort and heart, and it just seems like a lot of players on this team are simply throwing away the season after a very disappointing first month. Now, for many baseball fans across the league, including myself, thought the White Sox were a pretty easy fix. They simply needed a new manager. Now, obviously, they got rid of Tony La Russa last season and picked up Pedro Grifol, who was expected to pick up this team in the clubhouse and on the field, and so far, obviously, that just hasn't been the case. There has been lots of frustration around the White Sox. Grifol just last week was ejected 2 straight games by the same umpire, so clearly there are lots of frustrations going around in the White Sox clubhouse. Now, going back to the actual play on the field, the White Sox as a whole have been really bad. Offensively, they have what seems like lots of talent, but as we stand today, they have a .655 team OPS, which ranks 28th. And so far, the White Sox offensive struggles can be attributed to their stars just underperforming and also injuries. Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert have not been playing up to par, and other players like Yoan Moncada and Tim Anderson have missed some time due to injuries. But they have had a couple bright spots on this team offensively, as Andrew Vaughn's played pretty well along with Jake Burger and Andrew Benintendi. But as a whole, it is safe to say offensively they've been a huge disappointment with all the talent they have. They have the makings of a potential top 10 offense, and so far they have not been close to that. Now, for their pitching, it has been just as bad, if not worse. They currently have a 5.88 team ERA, which ranks 29th in baseball. Dylan Cease has been a bit up and down to start the season. All in all, in 30 innings, he's posted a 4.15 ERA. Lucas Giolito, for his standards at least, hasn't been too bad, as so far in 35 innings, he also has a 4.15 earned run average. Mike Clevinger hasn't necessarily been great, as in 24 innings, he has a 4.81 ERA. And 2 other starters who were expected to contribute big time to this rotation this year have been very bad in Michael Kopech and Lance Lynn, who each have 7+ ERAs up to this point. And to no one's surprise, their bullpen has also been one of the league's worst, as they have a 6.59 bullpen ERA, which ranks 29th. They haven't had any reliable arms up to this point in the bullpen. It's just been a complete disaster, and at least in my opinion, this isn't too big of a surprise because they've been without Liam Hendriks, who has been one of the best closers in baseball over the past couple years, but the good news, at least with him, is that he's going to be back hopefully towards the end of May because thankfully he's recovering from chemotherapy very well. So I hope he does come back and provide a spark on and off the field for the White Sox, but until then, the White Sox are just completely lost. So yeah, the White Sox have been a complete disaster. Can they turn it around? I think there is a slight chance that they can. They have lots of talent on this roster, but Pedro Grifol has a tall task ahead of him. After all, they do play in the weakest division in baseball, so they're going to have lots of chances to beat up on teams like the Royals and Tigers, so they need to capitalize on that if they want to have a chance at competing this season. Let me know what you guys think of the White Sox down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.